At family Christmas, my uncle moved my gift to the kids' pile, and no one corrected him once. I saw it happen in real time, which is the part my brain keeps replaying when I'm trying to fall asleep. He did it casually, like he was shifting a bowl of chips away from the edge of the table. One hand on a beer, the other pinching the corner of my present. My name written in my mom's neat, careful handwriting, dragging it across the carpet and dropping it right on top of the bright, chaotic stack meant for the little kids. It landed with a soft thump against a Paw Patrol box and something wrapped in glitter paper that was already tearing at the seam. My stomach did that stupid sinking thing like I'd missed a step on stairs. I opened my mouth, ready to say, "Hey, that's mine," but my voice got caught behind my teeth because my aunt was laughing at something my cousin said. My dad was refilling someone's drink, and my mom, who definitely saw it because her eyes flicked to the tag, just looked away and started fussing with the ribbon on the ham, like it suddenly needed urgent attention. Nobody said a word. Not a single oops, not even a joke. Just silence around that tiny shift, like my name didn't matter enough to take up space. I stood there with that hot, prickly feeling crawling up my neck, pretending I was fine, because that's what I always do in that house. The living room was too warm, the air thick with roast potatoes and cinnamon candles that smelled like fake cheer, and the floor was already crunchy with pine needles and bits of wrapping paper from the kids who'd been allowed to open one early. I could hear the TV murmuring some Christmas movie in the background, someone's idea of ambience, over the squeals of the little ones running laps between the couch and the tree. My uncle didn't even look at me after he moved it. He just sank back into the armchair like a king who'd made a decree. I tried to laugh along with whatever was being said, but my smile felt glued on wrong. My hands were doing that thing where you don't know where to put them, so I picked up an empty plate, then put it down, then picked up a napkin and folded it twice like I'd been assigned napkin duty. Meanwhile, my present sat there in the kids' pile like a dare. It was supposed to be an easy Christmas. That was the story I told myself when I agreed to come. Easy as in, show up, bring the pavlova, do the polite hugs, survive the group photo, leave before the weird political conversation starts. I'd even driven there with a little pep talk running in my head. You're an adult. You can handle a few hours. You can leave whenever you want, like I was psyching myself up for a dentist appointment. I'm 27. I live on my own. I pay my own rent. I have a full-time job that drains the life out of me in a very normal, grown-up way. And still, when I'm in my parents' living room, I turn into the version of myself that learned early how to keep the peace by swallowing everything sharp. My Uncle Rob has always been the unofficial bouncer of our family gatherings. Not in the protective way, in the decides who's worth respect way. He's my dad's older brother, loud, charming when he wants to be, the kind of guy who tells the same 3 stories every year and expects people to laugh like it's new. He's also the guy who, when I was 15 and got my first job at a cafe, called it practice and told me not to get too big for my boots. When I moved out at 19, he said, "Let's see how long that lasts," like he was placing a bet. When I got promoted last year, he made a toast to our little overachiever, and everyone laughed because it sounded complimentary if you didn't look too closely at the word little. He's never hit me or screamed at me or anything that would make a clean story. It's worse than that. He's just constantly nudging me back into the corner he decided I belong in. So when he moved my gift into the kids' pile, it wasn't random. That's what made my chest feel tight. It was a message. And the fact that nobody corrected him, nobody did the simplest thing, the bare minimum of saying, "Actually, that's hers," was like the room quietly agreeing with him. "All right," my dad clapped his hands loud and bright. "Gifts." The kids immediately swarmed the tree like tiny sharks. My little cousins, Harper and Mason, were already crouching, fingers grabbing at tags, ripping tape, bouncing on their knees. Their parents were doing the fake wait, one at a time routine that nobody actually enforces. Everyone gathered around with their phones out. The whole living room shifted into performance mode. I hovered near the couch, heart thumping in a way that felt ridiculous. It's a present. It shouldn't matter this much. But it did, because it was my name on that tag, and it was my uncle's hand deciding my name belonged in the pile for children, and it was everyone else pretending they hadn't noticed. Mason's little hand grabbed my gift almost immediately, because of course it was right on top. He read the tag out loud. He's learning to read, and he's proud of it, sounding out the letters carefully. To ing. Ma, he said, triumphant, and my stomach dropped because there it was, my name in his mouth, like a mistake he was about to correct. I stepped forward without thinking. That's mine, bud. Rob's head snapped up. He smiled, wide and easy. Ah, look at you, he said like I just said something adorable. She wants to open it with the kids. I started. My mom's voice cut in too quickly, too cheerful. It's okay, love. Let him give it to you. But Mason had already started tearing at the paper because he's 6, and a 6-year-old doesn't understand subtle humiliation or family power games. He just understands presence. The tape made that awful ripping sound. The paper split. The room oohed like it was cute. Stop, I said, sharper than I meant. My voice actually cracked. The room went still in that microsecond way, like a needle scraping a record. Mason froze, eyes wide, tiny fingers still clutching torn paper. Harper, who'd been halfway through unwrapping her own gift, looked up, confused. My aunt, Rob's wife, laughed awkwardly. Oh, don't be like that, Em. He's just excited. Rob leaned back in his chair, smug as anything. Relax. It's Christmas. Don't make it weird. My face burned. I could feel the heat behind my eyes, the way it does when you're about to cry, but you're also furious, and your body can't decide which emotion gets to drive. I'm not making it weird, I said, trying to keep my tone even. That present's for me. Mason's lower lip trembled. But it says your name. It does, I said, softening immediately because I'm not a monster. I crouched down, tried to meet him at eye level. And you did a great job reading it. But it's mine, okay? You can open yours. Rob made a noise in his throat, like I was over-explaining something obvious. God, you're touchy. I looked around the room. My dad was standing by the drinks table, staring at the floor. My mom was smoothing her hands over her apron like she could iron out the moment. My older cousin Jess had her phone half raised, unsure if this was content. Nobody moved. Nobody said, Rob, why did you put that there? Nobody said, sorry, Emma. It was like they were all waiting to see if I'd swallow it again. Mason held the half-unwrapped gift out toward me with both hands, like he was surrendering. His cheeks were pink. He looked embarrassed, which made me feel sick with guilt because none of this was his fault. Thank you, I whispered, taking it gently. You're okay. I stood up, gift in my hands, paper torn and uneven now. The room started breathing again. Harper went back to tearing at her own wrapping like nothing happened because kids bounce back. Adults don't, not really. Rob lifted his beer slightly in my direction. There. Crisis averted. Something in me tightened hard. I could taste metal at the back of my throat, like adrenaline. I peeled the rest of the paper off with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. The gift was a shoebox-sized package, heavier than I expected. My mom's handwriting on the tag looked careful, almost loving. And suddenly that made it worse, because it meant she'd wrapped it thinking about me. And then she'd sat there and watched it get shoved into the kids' pile without saying a word. Inside was a photo album. Not a cheap one. One of those leather-bound ones with thick pages. My chest actually ached when I saw it, because I knew immediately what it was. Mom had been scanning old family photos for months, texting me blurry pictures like, look at your little face. She'd mentioned wanting to put something together. On top of the album was a folded piece of paper, my mom's stationery with the tiny floral border. My hands paused. My eyes prickled again. Rob, from his chair, said loudly, what is it? A coloring book. A couple people laughed. Not big laughs. The kind of laughs people do to keep things smooth. I unfolded the note anyway, because I needed something to anchor me. Mom had written in her neat script, Emma, I know this year's been hard. I'm proud of you. I see you. I love you. Merry Christmas. My vision blurred so fast it shocked me. Because that sentence, I see you, hit the exact bruise Rob had pressed. I swallowed hard. I didn't want to cry in front of everyone. I could already hear the way Rob would mock it later. Waterworks. So dramatic. Ah, my aunt said, and I couldn't tell if she meant it. My mom watched me with this tight expression like she was hopeful and afraid at the same time. Thank you, I managed, voice thick. Rob made a little gagging sound. All right, All right, save the Hallmark moment. I looked straight at him then. Not a glare, not a dramatic stare. Just eye contact, steady like I was finally acknowledging him as the source of the rot. Why did you move it? I asked. The room went quiet again, but this time it wasn't a tiny pause. This was real silence. Even the kids slowed down, sensing the shift. Rob's eyebrows went up, like he couldn't believe I was calling him out. I didn't move anything. Yes, you did, I said, and my voice surprised me with how calm it was. I watched you. My dad finally spoke low. Emma. I didn't look at him. If I looked at him, I might crumble. Rob laughed, but it sounded thinner now. It was a joke. No one laughed, I said. A couple people shifted uncomfortably. Jess lowered her phone. Rob's smile tightened. Are we really doing this? Over a present. It wasn't over a present. It was over the 1,000 tiny ways he'd made me feel like I was always lucky to be tolerated. My mom's hands twisted in her apron. Rob, maybe just... He cut her off, still smiling. Sue, don't start. She's in one of her moods. There it was. That little phrase. One of her moods. The way he always reduces me to an inconvenience. I felt my pulse in my ears. The room smelled suddenly too strong. Ham and pine and sugar and that fake cinnamon. The tree lights blinked like nothing was happening. I'm not in a mood, I said, and my voice shook now despite my effort. You put my gift with the kids like I don't count. And everyone just let you. Mayan huffed. That's not fair. My dad finally looked at me, eyes tired. It's Christmas. Can we not? And the thing is, that sentence, can we not, was the whole problem. It meant, can you not ruin the vibe by having feelings? It meant, can you not make us choose sides? My throat burned. So you saw it too? I asked him. He hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. Rob took a sip of his beer, triumphant again. There you go. Case closed. I wanted to throw the album. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. Instead, I heard myself say, very quietly, I'm going to go. My mom's face changed instantly. Don't, Emma, please. Rob's eyebrows lifted like he was delighted. Oh, here we go. I hugged the album to my chest like armor. My hands were still shaking, but my feet moved. I walked past the kids, past the torn wrapping paper, past the table with half-eaten food and smeared gravy. As I reached the hallway, I heard my aunt's stage whisper, she always has to make it about her. My dad didn't follow me. My mom did. She caught me near the front door, voice low and frantic. He didn't mean it. Mom, I said, and my voice cracked again, which made me hate myself. He always means it. She grabbed my wrist lightly. He's like that. Don't let him get to you. That phrase, don't let him get to you, felt like someone asking me not to feel pain when they were actively poking a bruise. You wrote me a note that says you see me. I whispered, holding up the paper like proof. And then you watched him move my gift into the kids' pile, and you didn't say anything. My mom's eyes filled. I didn't want a scene. There's a scene anyway, I said, gentle but firm. It just happened on his terms. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked so tired. For a second, I saw her not as my mom, but as a woman who'd spent decades smoothing over men's behavior, so the house didn't explode. I'm sorry, she whispered. I am. Your father hates conflict. So do I said, but I'm the one always swallowing it. Her grip loosened. Stay, please, for me. I stared at her, and it would have been so easy to stay, to do what I always do, to take my spot on the edge of the room and pretend I was fine until it was socially acceptable to leave, to go home later and cry in a shower where nobody could hear. But something in me was tired, not dramatic tired, bone tired. I love you, I said, and I meant it, but I can't do this. Then I opened the door and stepped out into the cold air. The shock of it hit my wet eyes and made me inhale sharply. My breath puffed white. The night was quiet outside in a way that felt unreal after the noise of the house. I got into my car and sat there with my hands on the steering wheel, album on the passenger seat like a weight. I could still hear muffled laughter through the walls, the gathering continuing without me like my exit was a minor commercial break. My phone buzzed before I even pulled out of the driveway. A text from Jess. Are you okay? Then another from my sister, not Rob's kid. My actual sister, who'd been there, silent the whole time. Why do you always do this? You embarrass Mom. I stared at that text until the screen dimmed. On the drive home, the anger drained into something else, something heavy and cold. I kept thinking about Mason's face when I snapped, about how quick my family was to care more about the scene than the reason it happened, about my mom's note, "I see you," and the way her eyes had slid away when Rob moved my gift. When I got home, I put the album on my kitchen table and opened it slowly. The pages smelled like new leather. Inside were photos I hadn't seen in years. Me as a kid with missing front teeth, me on Dad's shoulders at the beach, me and my mom baking something lopsided and proud. There was even a photo of me at my graduation, cap crooked, smiling like I believed I belonged. I cried then. Not a dramatic sob. The kind of quiet crying where your chest hurts and you have to press your palm against your mouth so you don't make noise. Part of me was grieving the fact that my mom can write beautiful words on paper but can't say them out loud when it matters. The next day, my dad called. He didn't say, "Are you okay?" He didn't say, "I'm sorry." He said, "Your mother is very upset." I almost laughed. Almost. "I'm upset too," I said. He exhaled, impatient. Rob was joking. "You know how he is." "I do," I said. "That's the point." Silence on the line. Then my dad said, quieter, "Why can't you just let things go?" Because letting things go has always meant letting people treat me however they want, I thought. But I didn't say it like that. I said, "Because it keeps happening." He didn't respond to that. He just said, "Your mother put a lot of effort into that album." "I know." I said, throat tight again. "And I love it. But the album isn't the issue." He sighed like I was exhausting. "You've always been sensitive." There was again. That little label. Sensitive. Like it's a flaw that absolves everyone else. I said, "I'm not coming over for dinner next week." "What?" he snapped. "I need some space," I said. "You're punishing your mother," he said immediately, "because in our family, boundaries are always framed as cruelty." "I'm protecting myself," I replied. He hung up on me. My sister texted me a paragraph about how I ruined Christmas and made it awkward for everyone and need to grow up. Rob didn't text at all, which somehow felt worse. Like I wasn't worth even the effort of an insult. Mom finally called 2 days later, voice small. "I'm sorry," she said again, and this time she sounded like she meant it, not like she was trying to patch over. "I don't want you to be sorry," I said. "I want you to say something when he does that." She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I don't know if I can." That honesty gutted me more than any lie would have. So that's where I am now. I have this beautiful album on my table and this ugly ache in my chest. I keep thinking about that moment when Rob moved my gift and nobody corrected him. It was so small, so easy to fix. Someone could have laughed and said, "Rob, stop it, that's Emma's." It could have been nothing, but it wasn't nothing. It was the most perfect little summary of my place in that room. An adult who can be treated like a child, a person whose discomfort is less important than the group staying comfortable, someone who's expected to absorb the sharp edges so everyone else can keep smiling. I don't know what to do with that. Part of me wants to call Mom and say, "Next year, I'm not coming." Part of me wants to show up and dare Rob to try it again, just so I can finally say the thing I've been swallowing my whole life. Part of me feels guilty because Mason looked so embarrassed and I hate that he got caught in the middle. Part of me feels relieved, which makes me feel even guiltier. I guess I'm posting because I need a reality check. Am I overreacting? Is this just normal family teasing and I'm making it bigger because I'm sensitive? Or is it actually as gross as it felt in my body in that moment? Like being quietly demoted in front of everyone and watching the people who claim to love you choose silence because it's easier